So I feel like people are not as afraid of Necrozma as they should be, and today we're going to try to show why. This thing's stats allow it to get up to a bunch of possible shenanigans. It's got good attack, defense, and some big ol' special attack. And while more people are afraid of that base 127 special, I'm going to instead roll with a full physical set with Dragon Dance. Look, Necrozma is the definition of an insanely scary Dragon Dancer, and that's because its bulk allows it to get a lot of positions to get it going. Thanks to its exclusive ability Prism Armor, which cuts damage from super effective attacks, we can get dancing pretty easily. We've got a Lumberry if people want to try to stop it in its tracks with some status, but then it's time to fire off its best damage in a super interesting move, Photon Geyser. This is a 100 power stab psychic move that hits from either side, physical or special, depending on which stat is higher. Obviously, this is just a super spammable move that becomes pretty damn difficult to take if we get the opportunity to set up. And Necrozma also enjoys some nice coverage in things like hard-hitting Earthquake, along with potential X-Scissor for the Dark Fellas. Overall, Necrozma is just a weird mon that I feel like is pretty overlooked these days, but we're gonna go ahead and see if we can get this thing going and show why it's a super fun Dragon Dancer. Alright, look, bottom line is, I'm tired of the Necrozma disrespect. And this is coming from someone who remembered Necrozma existed about 3 days ago. However, it turns out this thing's pretty damn good and it's actually really fun to use. So today we're showing love to the weird like crystal thing. I actually don't even know what this thing is, but if this sounds like a fun time to you, go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm always messing around with some weird Pokemon shenanigans over here. And without any further nonsense, let's just go ahead and jump into the match. All right, so my opponent's gonna go ahead and lead off with the Hisuian Decidueye. To be honest, looking from the team preview, I wasn't really sure what their lead was gonna be, so I just toss out the Lycanroc and hope for the best. Now, Lycanroc, at least I know with Focus Sash, I can live anything this thing wants to do. I can set up my Stealth Rock and kind of just do a little bit of scouting. So it turns out they are going to be able to outspeed. They go for the triple arrows. Thank God for the Focus Sash, we are able to live, which is going to allow me to set up my Stealth Rock. However, knowing that this thing is able to outspeed there, that just tells me it's Choice Scarf. And that's at least, you know, pretty good to know moving forward. Problem is, at least Lycanroc cannot outspeed and go for an Endeavor. I do still have that 1 HP intact, so I can potentially get off a little Endeavor on something, maybe just keep that in the back pocket. So as I decide to switch out here, surely they're just going to go ahead and, you know, just throw around 3 more arrows. So as I go into Gramble, first of all, Intimidate's not going to work because of Scrappy. However, knowing that this thing is just locked into a fighting move, Gramble, I still should be able to take a triple arrows decently. It does do a nice little chunk there with a crit, so, you know, that kind of hurts. It doesn't get the defense drop, however, which triple arrows is kind of a crazy ass move. It has like 3 things it can do. It has a high crit chance, it can drop your defenses, and it also can flinch. So, you know, something's gonna happen. Luckily, Gramble hangs on, and here's the thing. I expect them to switch out, obviously. And as I go for the Earthquake, I'm thinking surely they go into this friggin' crazy string cheese guy, aka Golden Go. And I do get the prediction correct. Earthquake's gonna do a huge amount of damage. Sadly, it doesn't quite knock the thing out, and that leaves me vulnerable to getting hailed on via coins. Feeling like a cheap stripper, I do not want to get, you know, quarters thrown at my face, so instead, I decide to conserve the Gramble here. I don't have a whole lot that wants to switch into the thing, and as I go into the Mabostiff, I was thinking maybe I can live in attack and then outspeed with the Choice Scarf and threaten it out at least, but yeah, no, I just come in and just get completely drowned by change. So yeah, that's gonna take out Mabostiff. I just kind of had to have a sack switch there as I didn't really have much that wants to hard switch in, but luckily, with that special attack drop, now I feel like I can get a little something going. I decided to go into the Empoleon because I'm thinking, first of all, they probably swap out here. It's going to allow me a position to go for a free agility. Turns out, as they stay in, they probably just wanted to sack the Golden Go. But as they see me go ahead and bust out the agility, one thing they were not expecting, surely, was Speedy Penguin. We love ourselves some crazy Empoleon over here. I do have a video on this guy if you want to check it out. Bad news about Golden Go is I can't go for a Metal Sound versus it just because of its damn ability good as gold, but they swap out anyway. And as they bring in Primarina, this is one thing that I can't really touch. I do kind of, you know, threaten the prospect of me having something like the Flash Cannon, which would just be a neutral hit anyway, but I know that I can actually take attacks from a Primarina just fine anyway. So here's the thing. I decided to go for the Metal Sound. If you're familiar with this set, I go for Metal Sound, which is a sound-based move. First of all, it drops their special defense by 2. That's going to then activate a Throat Spray, and just like that, we have a 3 boost upper hand on the whole situation. Now, as they go for the Energy Ball here, it's a way to hit me neutrally. Doesn't do a whole lot, but now they probably realize that, you know, they're kind of in danger now that they're at -2 and I'm at +1. So I just decide to fire off another Surf. They realize that Primarina should probably get the hell out of here, and they just go back into the Golden Go, who does end up getting used as a sack anyway. So Cinnamon is the Winamon, gonna go ahead and go down. And Empoleon's in a pretty damn good position here. While, you know, switching out the Primarina doesn't at least remove that Spadef drop, it can't really knock me out with one more energy ball. So they're gonna now take this opportunity to go into Basculegion, which I was kind of also hoping, yeah, they might wait a little bit on. Sadly, all I can really do is, in terms of best damage, is just go for a Surf. Empoleon in this matchup just doesn't really have a great spot, so I figure I might as well just get some value here while I can. Surf's gonna do a big amount of damage anyway, and they can finish me off with a Last Respects, which is sad to see because Last Respects is like the most broken move in the game, and now I've got to deal with a crazy ass Basculegion. So here's the thing, they are probably, I'm feeling like they might be choiced. If it's Scarfed, +2 speed Empoleon is still faster. So I'm thinking, you know, I could go into the Breloom here, and Last Respects is a crazy move. Unfortunately for them, they only have one Mon down, so it's not going to be fully, you know, crazy power yet, but I figured maybe they just click it again. My best opportunity here would be to go for the Terra Normal. If I can get the upper hand with this Breloom, I can find myself in a pretty decent spot. So it turns out they are just going to switch into this Decidueye. So I go for the Terra Normal just on the off chance that they stay in there and click Last Respect. I mean, they stayed in with Golden Go and just clicked a useless Make It Rain. So I was like, hey, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I go ahead, I put the diamond on the dome, and this Breloom is another pretty crazy one. If you're unfamiliar with this Breloom set, I go for Terra Normal Facades with the Toxic Orb able to give us a poison. We also have the Poison Heal to continually heal up. I can also Leech Seed things to just be annoying, and this thing's kind of fun. Focus Punch is also a good opportunity, but as they just go for the triple arrows, obviously this thing is faster, but luckily for me, since I went for that Terra Normal, I do at least get to use the extra damage here and be able to hit him with a big old Facade. So that's a max attack Breloom, Terra Normal boosted, Poison Facade. That's going to take out the Decidueye, which is great because that was a speedy Choice Scarfer, which is now I don't have to worry about, and hell yeah, we get a little bit of Poison Heal for the road. Sadly, as our substitute is broken, we're kind of vulnerable here because they've got a couple options to switch into. So they're going to decide to bring in the Hisuian Arcanine. It is not going to be heavy duty boots, as we see it does take the Stealth Rock damage. And now I've got kind of a decision to make. I decide to switch out here. First of all, I'm thinking probably going to go for a close combat here if I'm them. So I'm like, I might as well just grab a free Intimidate while I can. And one thing also, looking at this whole matchup in kind of like the grand scale of things, Necrozma looks like if I can get it set up in front of something, I can be in a great spot to get a late game sweep. So I go into Grand Bolt just for that Intimidate. Now, most of the time, Hisuian Arcanines are going to be some type of choice, right? We see the Choice Scarf on the Decidueye, so I'm thinking maybe this thing's not Scarf, but as I have the opportunity to switch out here, I end up just staying in because here's the great spot. While they do knock me out with another close combat, that brings both their defenses down to just cut in half, which is sick because now this thing's kind of feeling like a pretty good sitting duck here to try to get something going on my end. So I've got, obviously, you know, a lot of nonsense on this team. Two things I could try to set up here would be either Necrozma or I could try to go all in on this Breloom. Now, I decided to go into the Breloom because, first of all, if I'm them, I'm so incredibly afraid of a Mach Punch that I don't know why you stay in here. Turns out they do. They just go for the close combat. I try to bluff the Mach Punch there with -2 defense. That surely would have just knocked the thing out. But they, apparently, Buddy's got balls of steel. They just stay in and go for the close combat. That is going to take care of Breloom. It was worth a shot. Had I got up a free sub there, this Breloom could have become a crazy problem. Sad news is, now I'm down to 2 Mons left. But the even sadder news for them is that one of them is freaking Necrozma. I bring in this crazy Crystal Prism bastard and it's time to get going. So, again, this Arcanine has no business staying in here. I can't really go for a close combat. That's going to put me in a spot for a free Dragon Dance. And as soon as you start getting this thing some free Dragon Dances, you're going to have a bad time. So, I get that. They decide to switch into the Primarina. Great news is, honestly, this thing is so, like, way more bulky than you would think. A Dragon Dancer that is able to just take hits super easily can just get out of hand extremely quickly. So after a Dragon Dance, I'm looking like I'm faster than everything they've got. I'm pretty much honestly feeling strong enough as well. I just decided to go ahead and punch a ball of energy at this thing's face. That's going to easily take care of the Primarina. Able to hit that thing on the physical side. And now we get to see kind of what they've got to deal with this thing. So look, as they decide to go into the Basculegion, bad news about Basculegion at this point is, you know, since they've been losing Mons, Last Respects is going to hurt. But also what's even worse news for them is after a Dragon Dance, Necrozma is 1 base speed point faster than Basculegion. So even if that thing was Choice Scarf, we would have been just a little bit faster. I'm able to outspeed, fire off another geyser, and that's going to take care of it. So that is a great thing to see gone because, again, Last Respects is insane. And now as they decide to go into the Garchomp, they've got 2 Mons left. So here's the thing. Garchomp is bulky enough to take an attack. Just at +1, a Photon Geyser is going to do a lot. You know, it's not going to have... But he's not going to have too fun of a time, but it is going to work him up an appetite because now he's going to be able to get a Citrus Berry. Doesn't really matter at this point. But as they go for the Dragon Claw, check this out. That doesn't even do half. Necrozma absolutely eats that up. He's like, oh, did you Did you touch me? I couldn't feel it. I go for another geyser. We're just literally just spamming the geyser button. And that's kind of what this thing is able to do. It's bulky enough to take hits. It's able to set up relatively easily. And then Photon Geyser is kind of a crazy ass move. So final mon is going to be the Hisuian Arcanine, who after some Stealth Rock help is just going to go down. I actually even have the Earthquake here, but I'm going to continue firing off geysers because I am afraid of they do still have the Terra in the back pocket. They are going to bust it out. So main thing I'm worried about here is a Terra normal boosted extreme speed. And that feels like pretty much what's going to happen. They go ahead, they put the bling on the dome, and now it just comes down to, can I live this? They go for that extreme speed. Looking at this matchup, I'm like, I probably die here. Nope, we live it with 3 because Necrozma is the GOAT. We've been eating hella Krabby Patties, and they went all to our forearms, and we're able to clutch that live out. And Buddy is too damn thick for his own good. I think that was actually choice banded damage there. If it was a Jolly Arcanine with a choice band, that's about the damage range, and that is crazy. So Prison Boy clutches it out on that one, and that surely would have been the end of the game had they just gotten the knockout on that extreme speed. So definitely appreciate the clutch on that one, Necrozma. And that's now going to bring us into game number 2. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you might as well hit the like button. It seems to help out the channel. I don't know. You don't lose anything from clicking it, so go ahead and do it for me. Now we're going up against a pretty scary squad here. They've got some threatening nonsense, but you know, I have a Necrozma, so I'm not afraid. Let's get into it. All right, so first of all, buckle the hell in, because this is kind of a crazy one, and it comes right down to it. So here's the thing. I was expecting them to lead off with the Gliscor. I see that from the team preview, and I decide to go Breloom. Main reason being is that most of the time, people with the turn 1 Gliscor are going to go for a Protect. So with that knowledge, I decide I can probably get up a free Substitute, and that's going to be pretty damn nice. Now, they do go for the Protect, which is sick. And as I bust out the Substitute, we're about to get the full Toxic party going, because there's 2 Pokemon with the Poison Heal ability, and we're up against each other, which is hilarious. Breloom doesn't normally use it, but this time we are. They're going to go ahead and get their Toxic Orb. I activate mine, and the Grape Juice party is in full effect out here. So I figure now it's my best. I don't know what they want to do in terms of like hitting me for damage. Turns out they go for the Gunk Shot, where the animation just does not play, which is hilarious. But it does break my Substitute, and of course the one Gliscor I get the matchup on just has Gunk Shot for no reason. Not only that, but then I miss a Leech Seed, which absolutely busts my little mushroom balls. And that is unfortunate. So I do at least get some Poison Heal. I'm looking at this thinking, surely they're not going to connect on a Gunk Shot here, right? I'm going to roll the dice. Even if they do, I think I can live. They do connect on the Gunk Shot, and I do at least land my Leech Seed. So that feels pretty good. Look, this Breloom is mostly just to be a troll in terms of like getting a ton of HP back, both from the Leech Seed and the Poison Heal. And I can essentially just get up free substitutes with that health I get back. So we take a bunch from it. They heal themselves up, and then I'm going to heal myself up. And we're just a couple of poison fellas having a weird time out here. So I have 2 options. Either I switch out, or I predict them to over-predict, or just Gunk Shot misses. I decide to roll the dice here to try to get up another sub. Sadly, however, they connect on 3 Gunk Shots in a row, and that is going to take me out. So down goes Breloom early. I do at least have the Gliscor Leech Seeded, which feels like an opportunity I can take advantage of in terms of bringing something in that can set up. And guess who the setup fella is? It's young Forearms out here. I go into the Necrozma because I can pretty freely get up a Dragon Dance here. If they want to click knockoff, I figure that's fine. But they are going to end up swapping. They decide to go into the Tyranitar. So one thing about Tyranitar is, obviously, they can come in on a Photon Geyser. But luckily, as I go for a Dragon Dance, things are in motion. And I also have the coverage with an Earthquake. So I'm like, you know what? With my ability, I can live a crunch from this thing. But I figure my best bet is to try to get this thing to just put huge pressure on them early. What I'm going to do is I go for the Terra Fairy. Now, it's just going to allow me to easily take a crunch, but they swap out, and I'm doing that just so I can get up another Dragon Dance. You kind of, sometimes you need 2. I mean, I don't know. Boy just likes to dance. Let him have fun. So it turns out they actually end up switching, which is fine. I mean, it feels kind of weird because as I go into the Steel type, I turn into a Fairy. I'm like, can this guy see my inputs? What the hell's happening here? But I mean, at this point, honestly, it's still not that bad. The main thing I was worried about is if the Golden Ghost switched in and was holding an air balloon. Luckily, as it's not floating in the air, after 2 Dragon Dances, I'm definitely going to be faster, and I have enough power to knock this thing out with an Earthquake, and if it's Focus Sash, I'll be screwed. But, I mean, sometimes it is what it is. Even with that, I think I might even still be able to live and make it rain, depending on if it's not Specs or whatever. I just go for that Earthquake, I'm able to outspeed, and it turns out Cinnamon is, in fact, not the Winamon. I was going to be able to take care of it. Shout out to anybody who remembers the cereal guy that looks like freaking Golden Go from back in the day. I don't know. I say that every time I see one of the things, but I do take a little bit of Sandstorm, but here's the thing. I'm sitting here just fully equipped with 2 Dragon Dances and a vibe. So as they go into the Gliscor, I know that their best bet is freaking Gunk Shot for whatever reason. I'm always finding myself in a bad spot versus this guy's Gunk Shot, but I go for the Photon Geyser. bulky ass Gliscor is going to be able to live it. And as they connect on another gunk shot, it's not going to do very much at all. So shout out to this thing's ability. We're able to clutch that out. And even after some poison heal, Buddy's not going to be in any position to live another Photon Geyser. So I'm just throwing around geysers, and I felt like honestly at +2, there's not really much you can do to this Necrozma. Takes care of the Gliscor, which is always the most satisfying sight to see. That asshole just floating back into his Pokeball. And now we get to see kind of what they're going to do here. So I am relatively lower than I would like to be. Mostly vulnerable to priority is kind of the worst part. So as they go into the Cloister, I'm thinking probably Ice Shard here. Can I live it? Maybe. I go for the Photon Geyser. They do not bust out the Ice Shard. And as that does not quite knock this bulky asshole out, they go ahead and click the Whirlpool, which is diabolical. I'm like, is Buddy working with some type of trapping Cloister? The hell is going on with that? But the great news is it doesn't knock me out. I'm like, any other move you click there, it kills me. But as it doesn't, then I'm like, dude, if you don't have Ice Shard, you probably don't go for it here. Bad news is, after some Whirlpool chip, the next turn I will go down to it, and also the freaking Sandstorm. But I can at least get off an Earthquake for the road, but they have Protect. And like I said, that's going to be the most diabolical Cloister. What the hell's up with that? I see this thing and immediately always think Shell Smash, because that's what they are probably about every single time, other than this guy. But Protect is going to stall out one more turn. The Sandstorm's going to be able to take care of me. And down goes Necrozma, just a little too early. But I was able to stir some stuff up. You know, we broke through some Mons. And honestly, at least now this Cloister is relatively easier to take care of. It's at below half. So we got to see how we can bring this bad boy back. Now, I have some obviously just weird guys on the team. And one of the weirdest with it's freaking, I don't know, I don't like this guy's tail. Buddy's got a boob tail, but I go into the Oinkologne anyway because I'm like, if this Cloister wants to do weird stuff with like a Whirlpool, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and click the Stuffed Cheeks because we are fat. I go ahead, I bust that out. It's going to activate my Salic Berry. Also gives me the +2 defensive boost. And now we're kind of rolling with the Oinkologne, at least a little bit. So they take this opportunity to set up the Toxic Spikes. I have at no point known what the hell this Cloister was going to click. It turns out it's going to be Protect, Whirlpool, Toxic Spikes, and question mark. So I'm like, all right, that's actually, I mean, that's far better than a Shell Smash set. So at least now I can go for a Body Press. Going to be super effective. I have that +2 to defenses. Bad news for me is they have Mons that are far better than Oinkologne. So they can switch into a Glamora, who I really don't have much to touch this thing with. The Body Press doesn't do as much as I would like. It also is going to set up another layer of Toxic Spikes. And now, as I don't have any hazard control, I'm going to be switching into just immediately getting badly poisoned, which is not a great spot to be. But at least, hey, Piggy's honestly fine here. I can just Body Press the day away and just get as much damage as I can. Because for some reason I threw together a team that just has the weirdest possible stuff. So I go for another Body Press here. It turns out they're going to Spiky Shield. Because of course, guys rocking Protect, Cloister, Spiky Shield on this thing. I imagine they're probably just kind of some relatively stally, trying to like with the Sandstorm chip and Poison, just slowly whittle things down. So I'm just going to proceed to Body Press. I'll be damned if I'm going to switch out and lose my +1 speed and defensive boosts. And I'm like, I've got this far with the Oinkologne, I might as well keep it going. But they're going to go ahead and of course Mortal Spin, because as Oinkologne came in before the Toxic Spikes, I was like, hey, at least I'm not poisoned. Nope, they just get Mortal Spinned or spun. So look, even as I was just saying I might as well stay in and take this Piggy for as long of a ride as it can go for, I do decide here to switch out. I'm like, you know what, I do need some type of momentum. If they're probably going to click something like a Sludge Wave here, or even just set up Stealth Rock, I might as well bring in Sandy Shocks, because this thing does apply some pretty good pressure on their team. The one thing that I can't get a knockout on is going to be the Garchomp, especially since I no longer have my Terra. Unfortunately, I cannot Terra Ice the thing. So I go into Sandy Cheeks, and it turns out they're going to switch out themselves. So I do get my Booster Energy Speed, and now this Magnet's thinking, I am going to find a random matchup here. It does turn out to be the Garchomp, and this is the exact thing I was worried about, because I can go for an Earth Power. It's probably going to do a little over half, I would imagine. But then I just died to an Earthquake, so I don't really have the option to stay in here. I have to kind of just waste that booster energy, which sucks, but I'm faster than most things anyway. So I just now can go into the Slowbro, who is just kind of dedicated big body to switch into something like an Earthquake. I figure even with the poison, I should be able to live an Earthquake. I don't exactly know what type of set this Garchomp is. That's important to note. But as I come in on the EQ, I do live it just barely enough to be able to hang on from another one. And I figure they probably don't want to stay into like an Ice Beam here, but I am kind of forced to click it anyway. I kind of need to go for that safe play. Good thing is I can at least switch Slowbro out again with that Regenerator and come back in relatively healthy. But sadly, the Garchomp is not going to stay in, and instead they switch into Tyranitar here. And this thing with its defense or special defensive boost from the Sandstream, it's going to take an Ice Beam like nothing. And I am finding myself kind of back against the wall on this Tyranitar here. The main thing I'm worried about is this thing setting up a free Dragon Dance here. I'm like, surely this thing expects the switch, goes for a Dragon Dance, and then I'm kind of hosed by DD Tyranitar. So I decide to stay in and go for the Scald. Sadly, however, they just go right for the Crunch. That's gonna take care of the Slowbro, and I would have really liked to get a Scald Burn for the road there. But unfortunately, now that takes care of the Slowbro. That's kind of my best bet in terms of taking attacks from a Garchomp, and now things are getting crazy. So I decide now I can at least go into the Oinkologne, and while I do not have my defensive boost, I can still hit it pretty decently hard with the Body Press, considering Buddy's 4 times weak to that. So I'm gonna just go for the Body Press. It turns out, unfortunately, they go for the Terra. I was like, please don't be Terra Ghost. That would be bad. Luckily for me, it's just gonna be Terra Ground. It is still unfortunate because now, you know, I'm not gonna do much with the Body Press. And what's even worse is that I'm like, please don't click Dragon Dance. That would really be bad. But it does Dragon Dance, and that's scary. That freaking Godzilla over here is now giving me a free dance show, but I'm gonna have to pay with the price of my freaking pig, probably. So honestly, at +1, I'm like, just immediately, I probably am pretty hoed by Tyranitar here. But the main thing I can try to do is just go for a Body Slam, and if I can get a Para somehow, if they want to get greedy and Dragon Dance again, that would be sick. They do go for a second Dragon Dance, which is, first of all, like, okay, that seals the game. Honestly, just in terms of being able to outspeed and kill everything. But if I go for the Body Slam, I can get the Para, and I do. I get the lucky Para, which is now going to cut the speed in half, and now I'm a whole lot less afraid of this thing. Shout out to Oinkologne, really putting in some damn value there, baby. Nothing like a normal type Body Slam, clutching it out when you need it most. So at this point, honestly, Tyranitar is still pretty scary, even just being paralyzed at +2, but they end up switching out. They're like, you know what? I'm paralyzed, so this thing is ruined, and they just swap out. And as they go into the Chomp, I go for the Thief, just for the fun of it. And the great part is, while I touch it with the Rust Skin and the Rocky Helmet, I do at least take the Rocky Helmet from it. So there's nothing like just stealing a guy's hat right before you die. And as the Sandstorm comes through, Piggy Smalls is going to go down. So down goes the Oinkologne, but I got the clutch Body Slam Para that was honestly unexpected and needed. So what's great about also Oinkologne kind of going down there is that now I have a free switch. And honestly, my best thing I can do here is try to get as much chip as humanly possible with freaking Mabosstiff. I figure this is probably a defensive Chomp, just judging by the team comp. I can go for a Play Rough, however, and as I do connect on it, it doesn't even knock it to half. Holy shit, that is wildly unfortunate. But as I do at least get the attack drop, that's kind of nice. Now I can definitely live in Earthquake, and I really do just need to get as much damage on this Chomp as possible. It's feeling like it's fully defensive. Earthquake doesn't do much at all, leads me to believe it's probably invested mostly in like HP and things like defense. I take a little bit of poison, and my best option is just to continue to Play Rough. And as they've got some Mons in the back, I'm hoping for no switch. Turns out they do switch. And again, this Chomp is the main thing I'm worried about. But we'll have to deal with it later, because as I go for another Play Rough here, they end up swapping right into Cloyster, who is another just defensive fellow who can take attacks nicely, but 2 Play Roughs is going to be able to knock it out. And I figure it's probably my best bet to just stay in and try to take this knockout where I can get it. Because if they do go for something like any attack, I can't really switch into Sandy Shocks, which is my only other Mon in the back. So the poison is taking its toll here. I go for another Play Rough. I do connect, luckily. That's going to take care of the Cloyster, and that's a small win. What's also kind of nice is the Sandstorm does go away. However, I'm still poisoned, and it's a bad poison. So unfortunately, as much as I needed this Mabosstiff to get off another attack, I do go down to that poison. So now we find ourselves in a spot where I've got a Sandy Shocks versus 2 Mons, right? They have... Wait, no, just kidding. They have 3. They have Garchomp, Tyranitar, and a Glimmora. However, Sandy Shocks, on paper, looks like I have a pretty decent matchup, considering Tyranitar is low enough to be picked off here. So I go into the Shocks. They are just going to bring in the Tyranitar here, who is going to reset the Sandstorm. Doesn't really matter a whole lot, because this thing should just still be in range for an Earth Power to knock it out. If it's not, that would suck, but I just go for the Earth Power anyway. And luckily for me, down goes the Tyranitar. So now we got a 2v1 situation. And again, the main thing I'm worried about is freaking Garchomp. It feels like it's just a little bit too healthy. Judging by its build, it's probably max HP. And if I can get the knockout with an Earth Power, we win the game. Because then Glimmora just goes down to an Earth Power. And it all comes down to how bulky Buddy's Chomp is. It's feeling just a little bit too damn healthy without a Booster Energy special attack. I am scared. I do not have the Terra Ice, Terra Blast, but as I go for the Earth Power, it's just barely able to hang on. It lives it just by a damn sliver. Had I had Stealth Rock up, it would have been not whittled itself down to a point where I could have knocked it out. Unfortunately for me, that's the way it goes. I knew that Garchomp was going to do that to me the whole damn time, and I just did not have just barely enough damage. But that was still a really close game, and it was a really interesting one. And sometimes it's the way it goes. So that's going to do it for the game number 2. But that's now going to bring us into one more match here, because we're still we're hacking around having a fun time. And this is actually also a pretty, honestly a crazy match here that also comes right down to it. So let's go ahead and let's just jump into it. Now, why not? All right, so from team preview, I was expecting Rotom Wash as a lead, and with that knowledge, I was like, maybe I can go Breloom and get up a free substitute in front of it. That would be a great way to start the match. Instead, however, they go with the Cinderace, which is worst case scenario for Breloom here. I am just immediately in danger of going down to a Pyro Ball, and as much as I'm afraid of a U-turn, I honestly don't have really much to switch into this damn thing. So as I go Slowbro just as my safest bet, this thing is Assault Vested, so I mean, it's still defensive, but it's gonna hurt. They go for the U-turn here, and that hurts way more than I would have liked because of a damn critical hit. And that knocks me just immediately, I almost immediately lose Slowbro, which really is bad for this team comp because I truly don't have anything else that really likes to switch into stuff. So if that happens, now they bring in Rotom Wash, and I'm like, you know what? Is it worth conserving Slowbro? Probably, but I stay in anyway, expecting maybe they go for something crazy like a trick. Nope, they just go for a Hydro Pump and miss. So RNG just throws me a bone on that one, allows me to get off a nice big Psychic for some good chip damage on the thing, and that's kind of what you need against Rotom Wash. It does reveal it's going to be leftover, so I was worried about a trick for no reason, but then I was like, there's honestly no reason to just stay in here. I might as well go into the Breloom because I have the matchup, and even though I do not have Seed Bomb, they don't know that. So I go into the Breloom here, and this feels like a great spot to try to get up a substitute. However, this time they go for the Volt Switch, and that is incredibly unfortunate because they just continue to have the matchup upper hand here, because on that turn, they can now just get the matchup in freaking Cinderace, and I again find myself afraid of Pyro Bunny. So, you know, I do get my Toxic Orb release, kind of reveals a little bit what this Breloom's about, but I'll be damned if I just let this thing go down to a Pyro Ball. So I am going to switch. I decided to go into the Slowbro because I'm thinking surely they do Pyro Ball here, and as much as I thought I was just going to lose Slowbro early, I might as well try to conserve the thing, and it's honestly, it's a pretty savable mon with its ability Regenerator. So I do come in on a Pyro Ball, doesn't do much, and now I can actually go ahead and switch back out, come back in with Regenerator later, and as the left side of my screen does break, this happens to me far too often. I'd never seen anybody else with this glitch, but it happens to me all the damn time. But I go into the Sandy Shocks, who, you know, I figure, first of all, I can come in, I can activate a Photosynthesis, I'll be faster than the thing, and honestly put some pretty good offensive pressure here. But, of course, they just U-turn here, and now they can get a matchup on the freaking Sandy. So I'm, again, just back against the wall in terms of them having the upper hand on all the freaking matchups. But their screen does fix here, by the way. They go into the Gengar, and I'm like, this is fine. I'm faster than the thing. I have a booster energy. Nope, it's Choice Scarf Gengar. They can go for the Shadow Ball, able to outspeed, but luckily for me, Sandy Shock somehow is able to clutch that live, and then I get off the Earth Power, which takes care of the Gengar. So that was a wild turn of events. I took way too much damage on Sandy Shocks there. But I at least take care of the Gengar, which feels pretty nice. So, look, as they go into the Cinderace now, I'm thinking they're just gonna Sucker Punch. They know I'm faster, so I have no reason not to just click Stealth Rock here. They do go for the Sucker Punch. I get my rocks up for free, which is always really nice. And while this thing does have the pressure of just clicking Court Change, I figure I'm at least gonna have to force that thing to go for it if that's what they want to do. So, at this point, I'm like, you know, might as well. I'm probably gonna lose the Sucker Punch war here. They do go for it. I don't really have the great option to switch out, so I was like, the Cinderace still just is such an unfortunate mon for this team, but that takes care of the Sandy Shocks, and I probably could have made a better option there, and I figured whatever. I rolled for them maybe to not Sucker Punch, but they do. So at least with the free Battlefield, I'm like, you know what, Oinkologne, it's your time, buddy. You come in on a physical attacker, I can Stuff Cheeks it and get maybe something going. You know you're down bad when I'm like, the way I apply pressure is by setting up freaking Oinkologne. So this team is in shambles, but it's fine. They go for the U-turn there, doesn't do much. As they bring in Mandibuzz, boy, do I hate Mandibuzz. First of all, it comes in, it is not going to take Stealth Rock damage. That's because it has freaking heavy-duty boots on. And this is a defensive fella that is going to be a problem. So at least I can get my Stuff Cheeks up. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fire off some Body Slams, because one way to help me against this asshole, it would be to get a Paralyze, right? I go for the Body Slam just for the Parachance. Does not happen. Allows them to go for the Defog. Gets rid of my Stealth Rock I worked so hard for, but it's fine. So I'm just going to go for more Body Slams, right? I'm like, dude, the best thing I can do is just continue to Body Slam the thing. Because honestly, Mandibuzz is a mon that stops things like Necrozma setting up, and that's really my only other kind of offensive pressure mon I have left. So I continue to fire off Body Slams here. As they end up swapping, they're going to go into the Rotom Wash again. This thing's feeling healthy as ever because of its freaking leftovers, but look, I am a pig who is not afraid of no damn washing machine. I decided to go for the thief just because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to steal those leftovers from you. I don't like you eating those. I'm going to take them from you. So this Oinkologne set is just ridiculous, and it can be pretty funny. So they proceed to pivot all over me. They're going to go ahead and hit that Volt Switch, allows them to go into whatever they want. They go into the Clefable. Now, one thing about Clefable is it's always kind of a coin flip mon. You never know if it's going to be unaware or if it's going to be Magic Guard, if it's gonna, what it's really going to do, right? If it's unaware, that kind of stops me from wanting to set up something like Necrozma in front of it. But I figure, you know what? I'm all the way out here. We're a couple of pink fellas having a nice pink time. I go for the Body Slam, and as I get some chip there, I'm also able to live a Moonblast, which is surprising, and that's clutch as hell because now I can get off another Body Slam, and just any damage you can get on a Clefable is incredibly helpful. I'm feeling like it might just be some type of unaware one. Just the way their team comp is on their team, it feels like they're just pretty damn stally, and they really want to like just switch around and stop things from sweeping. But I just go for another Body Slam here, and as they go into Mandibuzz, while I'm slowly whittling the Mandibuzz down, it never feels like you have the upper hand on the asshole because it's always just going to click Roost. And I still don't get a para. Again, I'm like, what does it take for a guy to get a Body Slam para out here? I got to start feeding this Oinkologne some more oats. Maybe I'm not fat enough. Anyway, I go for more Body Slams because I'm like, why not? A crit would be sick. It lives it barely, and then is able to get off a Roost. So I'm feeling like I'm up against the stall team with like, it's one thing if you're going up against a stall team where you have actual offensive threats, but I'm using pretty much just the weirdest things possible. So it's like I'm already in the red a bit on that. So look, I go for another Body Slam. I'm hanging on here, fighting for my life like a damn cat on a screen door, and they can just continue to Roost. I'm really just, again, hoping for the para. I've gone for like 12 damn Body Slams at this point without a para. So I'm like, could you please just help me out here? I do not have anything to do to this Mandibuzz. It's really a defensive problem for me, but I proceed to Body Slam. They do eventually click the Foul Play, and that's going to take care of the Oinkologne. So, you know, hey, I came in there and gave it my best shot with my weird boob tail and everything. So I'm down to 4 mons left, and I figure one thing I can do is at least Slowbro can relatively take a Foul Play, and I can put some pressure on with an Ice Beam. It's probably not going to kill in this range, but I might as well go for it. They are instead just going to click a U-turn because everything's pivoting out here. Honestly, great team composition with all of the like synergy on the pivots. They have U-turn on everything, and it's like it's very, very hard to get the upper hand when that's the situation. But as I go for the Ice Beam here, they go into the Clefable, and obviously that doesn't do anything, but it at least knocks it to about half. And once again, we find ourselves in a pink-ass matchup out here. So here's the thing about this entirety of kind of this whole game matchup. Sometimes you find yourself in a spot where your offensive threats are just honestly not really having a favorable day. Here's the thing. I decided to just go into Necrozma here because I wasn't sure exactly what this Clefable wanted to do. I was thinking maybe Thunderwave as I have the Lumberry. It turns out they just go for the Moonlight, and I'm like, yeah, there's pretty much no shot that I'm getting through this defensive core here. So as I go into Necrozma, I'm like, I might as well just click some Dragon Dances. Problem with that is, the more I Dragon Dance, even if this thing's unaware, I'm in a horrible spot, but the more I Dragon Dance, the worse it's going to be for Mandibuzz being able to click Foul Play against me. And honestly, I'm going to need like 5 Dragon Dances to kill a Mandibuzz. So as they end up setting up the Stealth Rock, I at least get that one up for free. And I'm like, hell yeah. As much as I would like to continue to Dragon Dance, I'm still worried about that thing being unaware. So I'm like, I might as well just grab some damage while I'm here. And sadly for me, they just go right into freaking Mandibuzz, who being a dark type is not affected by the Photon Geyser. So this is a completely different match, and where, you know, I cannot just continue to spam Photon Geysers. We're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So fully expecting this whole game to just be kind of a wash at this point, I'm like, I might as well just go for the Terra Fairy and see if I can Dragon Dance again. If I can just somehow get this Necrozma to just dance its way to victory, that would be kind of crazy. So I go for another one there. I go for the Terra Fairy because I'm like, surely they click Foul Play here. I mean, I've boosted up my attack. It's super effective. I go for the Terra Fairy to at least be able to resist it, but as they go for the U-turn, they probably thought that I end up switching out there. So now I'm like, hold on. Just hold on a second. There's a shot that Necrozma maybe pulls it back for us, kind of. So as they now decide to go into the Rotom Wash, I have essentially 2 options here. Either they decide to go for a Will-O-Wisp and I can get up another free Dragon Dance with my Lumberry, or I just go for the damage and don't have to worry about taking any chip if they decide to click Hydro Pump. And honestly, I'm feeling like I need to conserve as much health as possible. I just finished it off with a Photon Geyser, and that takes care of the Rotom. So as they now are going to go into King Gambit, I'm like, all right, surely a +2 Earthquake should be able to knock this thing out. I might be sucker punched, but it is what it is. And as I go for the Earthquake here, it lives. It's able to hang on. And as they go for the Swords Dance, it's still a resisted hit, but a Sucker Punch is going to be a little bit of a problem. I really should have gone for another Dragon Dance there versus that Rotom. I was like, surely they click the Will-O-Wisp there. I could have had a clutch Lumberry, and, you know, it is what it is. But at least I can just go ahead and finish this thing off. They are going to be able to go for the Sucker Punch, which does a ton of damage with a critical hit, of course. And that is unfortunate because as I finish it off with an X Scissor, it now comes down to basically, can I get any type of damage on the Mandibuzz? I still have the pressure with Mandibuzz and Cinderace with my Slowbro, though. Slowbro is kind of the clutch mon I still have here. Now, here's the thing. They go into the Cinderace, and as I make the immediate quick decision to click a move, I go for the Photon Geyser. Now, here's why that's a problem. They go for the Sucker Punch, which is going to turn him into a Ghost type, and I realize I have immediately made a bad misplay there. They're now Dark type, and no longer affects it. I honestly kind of thought that the Sucker Punch was just going to kill me anyway, but it doesn't, and as I live that, I'm like, wow, I should have gone for an Earthquake. Now, in hindsight, actually, even just a Dark type Cinderace, even at +2, an Earthquake does maximum of 96% of the thing, which I find crazy, so that's unfortunate. But at least here's the thing, I can go into the Slowbro for free now. As they continue to spam Sucker Punch, I'm now in a spot where I actually am like, dude, this Slowbro can clutch the rest of this match out for me, because what I can do is I can switch out, get another Regenerator, and end up swapping out here. I figure they probably do click the U-turn, but Breloom can live a U-turn, and if they want to go into Clefable, then I can get some big damage on it. So they do U-turn here, and while Breloom hasn't done much today, I'm able to at least tank that hit, and this Cinderace is still remaining to be a massive problem. But as they go into the Clefable, this thing is, of course, still at goddamn full HP, because everything they have heals, but I end up going for the Facade just to get as much damage as possible, and that's going to do over half, which is sick. And as they do finish me off with the Moonblast, I get that thing into range where I'm like, now I'm actually not that afraid of this Clefable. And as I've got a couple of Mons left, Slowbro still kind of remains to look like my win condition here, if at all possible. Now, the battle timer is also taken away, slowly but surely, and I figure... I go into Necrozma here because I couldn't remember. 11 HP, I'm like, surely Stealth Rock kills. I couldn't remember what 12%. I think it does about 20 damage to Necrozma on the Stealth Rock switch in. So that was it. Couldn't remember if I just forgot Stealth Rock was up or I gave it the old college try. But anyway, Necrozma comes in, says hello, and dips the hell out. So at this point, I've got 2 Mons left. And again, Slowbro is going to be the one that needs to do it. Bad thing about this damn Clefable is it just has Moonlight, and I do not have enough damage to knock it out. But what I can do is continue to fire off Psychic, and if I can get a Spadef drop, maybe I can end up knocking it out. It's surely just going to Moonlight here. But again, with the game on like a 2-minute battle timer, things are getting right down to the end here in a very crazy, just like defensive matchup. So I go for that Psychic. It does nothing. I don't get the Spadef drop. This thing's got leftovers. But one thing is, I mean, at least Clefable can't really hurt Slowbro, so I'm just going to continue to fire off a Psychic. But they end up swapping. They're going to go into the Mandibuzz here, because of course this thing just on brand fashion, just going to torment me the entirety of the game here. It comes in for free. Psychic does not affect, and the best thing it can do is go for a foul play, but I now have the upper hand in terms of being able to click Ice Beam at least, and that's pretty nice. It turns out they're going to switch again because they probably realize they can proceed to switch around, which is honestly fair. Had I had my Stealth Rock up, would be kind of nice, but Cinderace's boots anyway. And as the Ace does come in, Ice Beam doesn't do anything, and while I do threaten it with a Scald, the battle timer is low enough to the point where they can just go ahead and wait that one out, and that is going to be the end of the game on that one. So honestly, I found myself in some spots where I had the option to make the right plays. I just wasn't able to make it happen on that one. And honestly, that team matchup was just very scary. And timer's annoying. Honestly, I could have just not switched in Necrozma on Stealth Rock for no reason and then had like a 3v3. How would that have gone, actually? I don't know. Regardless, that could have gone either way, just with Slowbro having the pressure it had. But a U-turn paired with like a foul play on the Mandibuzz, it would have been an interesting one. Regardless, though, had a fun time with it. We're just over here messing around. And while I only really had one like crazy actual Necrozma sweep in that first match, sometimes you got to throw in some longer ones that don't, I guess, necessarily always go my way. What would the fun in that be, huh? See ya.